We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies.
Welcome back, Deal Junkies. In the studio with Gabriel Hamel, special guest. Just recorded an amazing episode. Trevor Howard, as always, and Dane McKinney, who's being very vocal today. Way more vocal.
Yeah, are you not usually this vocal?
We don't let him talk normally.
Well, it was like the first 10 episodes.
The first 10 episodes, he didn't talk much, and then he goes on the sprint around the country, and then comes back, and now we can't shut him up.
I think
time freedom, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this episode, we wanted to talk a little bit about specific deals, but I wanted to hear more about your 0 to 100 tribe. Like, what is it? What are you guys doing with it? What are your goals with it? So if you just want to dive into that.
Yeah, 0 to 100 really was built around helping people achieve time freedom through cash flow real estate.
So people join a group? Like, whoa.
Yeah, we have a mastermind. We have a book. We have some online stuff. And so it's really people who, a lot of people get into real estate and there's wholesaling, there's flipping, there's syndicated buying, like there's all these different aspects of real estate. Our focus is really helping educate people on buy and hold cash flow real estate. It's not flipping. It's not creating a business. It's not wholesaling. It's very specific to buy and hold cash flow real estate. So you can not only gain financial freedom through real estate, but time freedom and spend your life doing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah. So what is your guys' personal goal with it? Because Travis came and spoke at the meetup too, and we loved his story. Travis was awesome. But are you guys trying to make money, find partners? Like what is your guys' goal? Because you guys have already done it all, and now you're just passing on the information.
Yeah. It started as a passion project for, it was Travis and Mitch. And I say no to a lot of things. Travis and Mitch are great business people, but they're also just good. They're good humans. And everything they were doing with 0 to 100 really aligned with what I've done and what I want to do, right? Like I've been able to achieve financial freedom and time freedom through cash flow real estate. And I think a lot of people are attracted to that. Like we talked about that earlier on the podcast, like people get into real estate, not just for financial freedom, because they want to actually have freedom and choices and own their life. And so the more I got to know Travis and Mitch over the last several years and hearing what they were doing with 0 to 100, it was intriguing. And then they asked me to be involved. And it was an easy yes, because it aligned with what was important to me. I love pouring into other people and I love giving back. And this was a way to give back to a community of people who are hungry to learn about achieving financial freedom and time freedom through cash flow real estate.
Are you guys doing weekly calls on that, or what does it look
like
when someone joins?
So we have the podcast, and then we have a weekly call. So usually every week it's 2 hours with Travis, Mitch, and myself, or a combination thereof, usually all three of us. And then the podcast, and people can listen live. And then one thing for our elite members, all of our podcast guests are asked to, and everyone has said yes so far, they actually stay on with our paid members, which is kind of cool. So everyone we've had on, we'll do a live podcast recording and people can listen in live, unedited version before it's released. But then we kick everyone off that's listening, and our elite members can actually stay on, and they do a Zoom call live with our guests. So Brandon Turner came on, he stayed for an hour with our elite members, and they just got a Q&A for an hour. So we're trying to just add value as much as possible to those members. They have access to, we're about to do our second live event. They have access at a discount, and the first ones to sign up for that. But really, really close community of hungry individuals looking.
Where's your live event going to be at, and when?
It's going to be in November. Oh gosh, what are the dates? November 19th through the 21st in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh,
okay.
Week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Last year we did it over in Travis and Mitch's. They have a boutique hotel over on the gorge.
In Hood River?
Yeah, in Hood River.
Yeah. Okay, because Travis is still in Hood River, right?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. How many people are in these groups so far?
In our elite group right now, we have a little over 20, I think 20, low 20s.
Okay, right on.
So the incentive for you is just that, it still sounds like a passion project. That's not really changing a financial situation for you. It's just...
I think we can build 0 to 100 into something very cool,
yeah.
Right? But what something starts out to be and what it ends up being, you never know. Bigger Pockets started out as a blog and turned into a podcast and became a media company, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we have a vision for 0 to 100, but a lot of it is just how can we add a tremendous amount of value to those looking for this. We think there's a need and desire. A lot of people want financial freedom. They want time freedom, and there's a lot of noise out there. I mean, we get that. And yeah, the nice thing is me and Travis and Mitch, we don't have to do this. Like we're doing this because we want to give back and we want to build something that can add a lot of value, so that when people say, hey, 0 to 100 changed my life, or this one relationship or this one deal or what I learned, like we have a guy that went from I think like 3 to 60 something units, and he contributes a lot of that from the community and the education he got at 0 to 100.
Well, that's awesome.
I see it as ways you just focusing and consolidating the way you invest in people.
Yeah, and it's super fun. Like I get to show up, talk about real estate. I get to focus on, Travis has built a successful business on real estate related and had an exit, so he knows how to build a team. Like it's really fun to have people that I can just bounce ideas off of. Like, hey, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should try that. Like the three of us are very idea people, right? And we have people in place that can go make that shit happen. So when we have an idea, it can be implemented.
Yeah.
That's new. That's new for me, right? Like, I mean, aside from like in the real estate world of like my property managers and such, I don't have like a team or a bunch of employees. So it's really fun to be able to just focus on the visionary part and then show up and talk about real estate on a podcast and just pour into people. Or when we have guests, like we're doing here, just ask questions and hear people's stories. Like it feels very organic and natural for me. And I just align completely with what Travis and Mitch are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we had Travis talk at the meetup, like he impacted Gabe, way more than I thought. Where Gabe came on the podcast next time and like broke down his whole process of like what he taught, and he was like, "I love this." And Gabe usually is not into like all the speakers and all that stuff, so it's cool to see.
That is cool.
But anyway, we wanted to dive into a deal too, and you were telling us a little bit on the break, like a deal. You had that deal with an emotional deal with the seller and whatnot. If you want to tell us more about how that went down.
Yeah, I know you guys asked me if I had an interesting deal, and I know we covered that Iowa City deal, which was pretty creative. But a lot of my early seller finance deals were very similar, right? They were no money down. My criteria was they had to be cash flow positive. A lot of the deals were very similar in that at the time, and there is no cookie cutter, right? Like I'd say with seller financing, as you guys know, it's as creative as you as the buyer or the seller, but as creative as you and the seller can get, right? I mean, you walk into a bank and typically, other than the Iowa City deal that I shared, usually the bank is like, these are the terms, like you qualify or you don't. And it's this price, or not the price, but this is the interest rate. This is the down payment. Like these are the terms and you either agree to it or not. So what I loved about seller financing is that the terms are as creative as, you and the seller could get. But a lot of those early deals were very similar in that, yes, they were no money down, but they were all interest only loans. They were all slightly above market interest. They were all interest only. They were all slightly above market, and there was a balloon in like usually 2 to 5 years. So I just thought that was typical seller financing terms. That's what I thought. In fact, the questions I get asked the most are usually, and thanks for not asking me, are usually like, what are typical seller financing terms? And how do you convince the seller into carry financing? And I've never convinced the seller. I've never talked to seller into carrying financing.
It's not a convincing.
Ever. I've always found sellers that wanted the carry financing, and then I ask them, hey, what kind of terms would you be interested in? And they tell me, and I try to marry those things. Like, how can I give them what they want and make the deal work for me?
What's up, Deal Junkies? This is Trevor. I just wanted to let you know that we want to help you do deals. Because of that, we put a link in the description of this podcast episode where you can click it and book a call and talk to us. Go ahead and click that link, and let's talk about some deals that you want to do or you are doing currently.
That being said, a lot of those early deals were very, very similar, like slightly above market interest only, 3 to 5 year balloons or 2 to 5 year balloons. And then I did a deal where it was a 5% down, 30-year fully amortized loan. And this couple was almost in their 80s. That was the first deal that kind of opened my mind to like, why would they carry for 30 years fully amortized, right? Like why would they do that? And it also made me realize like, I actually don't know what sellers want unless I asked. I made the assumption like, oh, they wanted 5% down. I was okay with that. I mean, that was a lot of money down compared to those no money down deals, but 5% down was still, it wasn't a lot down. 5% down was still, a good deal, but they wanted to carry 30 years fully amortized. And so I really shifted away from thinking that I ever knew what a seller wanted. And then another deal came shortly after that that I thought was very interesting. So there was a commercial property. I still own it today. Commercial property with 7 multifamily properties attached to it. And it was being marketed as a development project. And I liked the area. I owned a lot of rentals in and around that area, like that neighborhood, like within a few blocks. And I personally knew people that were making offers on it and they weren't accepted. The property never went into contract, never went pending. I'm like, this is really interesting. And I had an opportunity to talk to the seller when the listing expired. And we talked for like 15 minutes, and I was like, hey, I noticed, this didn't sell. I'm just curious to why, and he said, well, I was getting a lot of cash offers and I really didn't want to be cashed out. Now, keep in mind, his own broker was marketing this thing as a development project, and he received some pretty healthy cash offers, but they kept getting rejected. And so I asked him what do you want? And Mike, you probably have heard this exact story. I'm not sure, but he was a 75-year-old retired judge. And he said, I'm 75. I have no family to pass this property down to. He goes, I want income for the next 15 years. He's like, I'll probably live 15 years, and I want income. And when I pass away, or if I pass away during that 15 years, there's this nonprofit that's near and dear to my heart that I want the payments to continue to go to. So every offer that came in on this property were based on what they want or what they thought the seller want. Even the seller's own broker marketed this like, bring your cash offer, bring your cash offer. This is a development project. He said, I want income, right? So he was actually flexible on price, down payment, and interest rate. He just wanted steady income. And he wanted to know that if he passed away, this nonprofit. So that's the emotional piece that I talk about.
He really wanted a remainder beneficiary. That's all 100%. He wanted. He wanted someone in the note named to pass the payments on to.
100%. That was what was important to him.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the piece where when I say it's more about the relationship than the transaction, every single person that made an offer based on like what they wanted, nobody found out what he wanted. Once I knew what he wanted, and it wasn't like he was keeping it a secret, I asked him what he wanted. Nobody asked him. Mm-hmm. He told me what he wanted, and I gave him what he wanted, and still made the deal work for me because he was actually flexible on price, down payment, and interest rate. Usually, I think it's one of those things. Mm-hmm. The reason he was flexible on all those things, I got a good price, a low interest rate, and a pretty long carry. If he carried for 15 years, because there was that emotional aspect that I was able to give him, and again, it creates that win-win scenario.
Why did the broker not know that?
I bet she didn't even ask.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and
I don't know. Like you would, and I think I hate to knock real estate agents or brokers, but like the reality is most real estate agents, most brokers, they're looking at through the lens of a commission. They're looking at real estate as, they'll say it's relationship based because they're building their entire like business off of having relationships with people, but it is transactional in nature. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like they have to transact in order to be paid, but that is also the problem. They have to transact in order to be paid. Most agents and brokers are not investors. Most agents and brokers know very little to nothing about seller financing, and they're actually less concerned, even if they say it's about the relationship, they're more concerned with like, how do I get paid? Mm-hmm. How do I get paid? Mm-hmm. Well, if he seller finances this, how do I earn my commission, right? Like, I think that's a big piece of it. And so they don't ask. I've had brokers on listed properties. You can tell they're gatekeeping like you to get to the seller when their seller may want to actually carry financing. And that may actually be the best thing in their interest to carry financing. But the broker's thinking, how do I get paid? Which there are ways for them to get paid. I mean, if there's a down payment involved or, I did a no money down deal once where the seller still paid the broker a fee. I don't know what they agreed on, but some kind of fee to transact. But I think that's a lot of it.
So with this deal, you said it was a development deal. Like, what did the deal actually look like? Like, how'd you structure it, and what did you do with it?
Not for Gabe.
It wasn't a development for me because it was a commercial property. So it was a cannabis business with seven other single family and duplexes, like kind of in and around the area. So the land itself at some point could be developed, but it penciled today. Same thing I did on my early deal. I was like, let's see the last 3 years tax returns, and I made it pencil. The business, the commercial building has been converted to a triple net property now. And the other properties are getting much higher rent. Just as tenants have moved out, I've improved those properties and they're achieving much higher rent than they were before. I have no plans to develop the the property. Maybe in the future, like, is the land, could it be developable? Yeah. Is there value there? Yes. Have I been able to force appreciate it? Yes. But at this point, I have no desire to tear it down. And
He just doesn't want to say he's a liar. He land banks. He has a land bank in his portfolio, but he says he doesn't land bank.
You know what? But no, that actually is a good point. I have a lot of properties where there is almost everything I buy has upside potential. Everything. I buy it for the cash flow today.
Yeah.
But most of what I buy has upside potential. All those mobile home parks, they cash flow well, but that's also developable land.
It's also in Oregon.
It's also in Oregon.
Really expensive land.
Very expensive land, right? So like the one park that's not doing wonderful in Idaho, it sits on 20 acres outside of Coeur d'Alene. Like I prefer that property to be performing better, and I'm mitigating some of the things that have been challenging, right? That being said, I don't like to land bank in the sense of like, that's my only way for this deal to work. But yeah,
that's not land banking. That's speculation.
Speculation.
I love speculating, but just kidding.
And you can make a lot of money in speculating. You can make a lot of money, speculating. But I've also watched a lot of people lose a lot of money speculating.
With that Idaho property, what's going wrong on it?
A failed septic system. The city is saying you can't bring in RVs. So a lot of my mobile home parks, most of them are all mostly mobiles, but there's long-term RV too. That's pretty common. I had scrapped three abandoned mobile homes, right? So keep in mind, this is 20 minutes outside of Coeur d'Alene. It's very expensive to live in Coeur d'Alene, Spokane and Eastern Washington and Idaho. This is an affordability play, right? Like, you have homes renting for thousands just down the road, and here's a mobile home park. So I think I'm doing the right thing. I scrap 3 homes, have someone come in, they really clean it up. And my property manager had someone come in with these like newer, beautiful RVs and set up. And the city said, we don't allow RV anywhere in this town. I don't want to name the town yet because I'm working on.
I know what it is.
What?
Is it to the west?
It's I'm working with
Don't
someone.
answer that
I'm working with
question.
someone we all know to figure out. We may be developing it. I may be partnering and developing and putting something really cool there.
Yeah.
But that being said, the city's like, well, we don't allow RVs anywhere. And I'm thinking like, you don't give a shit about affordability. All these local governments say we want affordability, and I literally had 3 abandoned piece of shit looking homes that were like eyesores scrapped. I paid $20,000 in like dump fees. Plus the labor I paid to have it done. And we brought in, had these tenants bring in these newer RVs, and the city said no. Yeah. And that we're going to use your place as an example. It's a little bit crazy. So it's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix of that. But, with every challenge comes an opportunity to do something cool. So like, I'm working with somebody to possibly, not only fix a septic, but to actually develop something really cool there.
In Oregon, can you place RVs in all your parks? No problem.
Non-issue. Yeah, I've never had an issue with that.
How did the city over there figure out that you had RVs placed in?
Either probably a tenant complained, or it's interesting because it was kind of the eyesore of the area, right? Like, but I want to do my part, and so like I instructed my property management to clean it up. Like, the 3 worst homes that were abandoned got demolished. Like, and neighbors were saying, they were very excited, thanking the property management. I think it had more to do with like the septic issues, which we're working through, right? But I think they're like, why are we bringing in more homes? So there was some complaint to the city, and I'm asking them, like, if you guys care about affordability, like, why wouldn't we, and you want this place to look nice?
Well, they want you to lose money so it can be affordable. They don't want it to be affordable from an investor's mindset. They want it to be affordable from the mindset of, we want our city to be beautiful and affordable.
It is surrounded
is an
like
oxymoron.
It is, right? And I think that it's a beautiful piece of land. Yeah. Like, there will be something really cool there at some point. I mean, it
sounds like there's plans. The
20 acres, the property, the mobile home park sits on only about 3.5, 4 acres of that, and it's surrounded by $1 million plus homes, $2 million homes. But I think it's partly that, and also like, mobile home parks don't generate a lot of tax dollars for those local governments too. So that could have something to do with it.
With your septic problems, did you know about them going into the deal, or you found out later because you didn't inspect the septic system, or what happened with that?
I knew there were some issues. I didn't know the extent of it. This was a pretty interesting deal where it was actually auctioned. I had signed up for the auction, but I didn't bid on it. It got locked up it was in contract for like 1.8 something. And they backed out of contract, and then I ended up buying it for like $1,050,000. And so
You figured he had $750,000 to deal with the septic?
$50 an acre or $50K an acre outside of Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah. So I think, it's, even though there's, like I said, even though there's challenges, it's like, there's an opportunity there. This is not how I would want it to go.
Are you going to expand Silver Falls or Silverwood? I mean,
I don't know. I've been to Silverwood. We used to go there with the kids a lot. My wife's from Spokane. So
okay.
Yeah, she's there right now.
Sounds like it was too close to home. Well, sick.
I was going to go back to the year 30 years. So that first deal you're talking about, sorry, jump backwards. But you said they wanted to carry for 30 years and they were 75, 80 years old. Is that because they wanted to pass on their kid, or what was the actual motivation?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. So that was my question. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not trying to put, I hope they live a very long time. I plan on living to like 200, right? So but statistically, they're probably not. Like, why would they carry for 30 years? And what they said is, we want income for the rest of our lives. And then we want our adult daughter to continue to get that income, to continue to get that income without the headache and hassle of that property. Ironically, or maybe it's not even ironic, that's been a great rental property. I am in contract to sell that property now to my tenant.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Are you selling it creatively to them and they're going to keep making payments because they set it up where you can't pay it off? Or
I can pay it off. Yeah. Okay. Even though they wanted to carry for 30 years, there's no kind of prepayment penalty or anything like that.
And they just didn't think of that at the time? Or why?
I think they were okay with,
if it does get
why don't you
off.
just collateralize it on another property?
I'm ready to sell this. I'm slowly peeling off some of my smaller stuff.
No, but collateralize the debt, take their note and just move it to a different property.
Yeah, they have stuff to do with it and I don't need it right now. Like it's in fact, I even offered, it's probably assumable and they are willing to let, but this tenant's dad wants to buy the property outright. So yeah.
Okay.
It's also really hard to force somebody to like keep a note forever. To answer that question, like if you're 10 years into a note, there's almost nothing that a seller can do to protect themselves from being paid off after.
You would just have to set a crazy payment penalty.
5 years.
Yeah, it worked out well. Like we talked for the first time in a long time. Like, and I was like, oh, by the way, I'm selling this house the next week. They're like, perfect. It's perfect timing, cool. Right? So it always works out how it's supposed to. That from my property manager, I guess this is a difficult tenant anyway. Like. Now she's going to own the house.
Always works out how it's supposed to.
It does.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Before you take off with your 0 to 100 tribe event, because I kind of want to go to it because it sounds sweet. Who are you having your speakers? What's the setup? What happens at the event?
Yeah. So we will dig into all things real estate, of course. I will be there. Travis will be there. Mitch will be there. Devon Kennard, ex-NFL player who has transitioned into real estate. We met several years ago at the Limitless event and just hit it off. He lives locally. He's going to attend the event. Kara Beckman, who I know, Mike, she is going to be at the event. And then JT Thornton, he actually run the construction management side of my project in Oklahoma City, and he owns a couple thousand units. He's partners with I think Tim Ferry on some of their stuff.
Okay. Is this 2 days, 3 days?
This will be the 19th, 20th, and 21st.
Okay.
There is on the 18th, there's a dinner just for the elite members. It's kind of a private dinner, but then the 19th, 20th, 21st will be the event, and we'll dig into all things like buy and hold cash flow real estate, and then we're doing some cool stuff too. We're gonna do some top golf. I don't golf, but I know Mike did.
That's so bullshit. This guy beat everyone. His first time ever golfing.
He's an athlete. He didn't say golf.
He's an athlete.
And we may be doing some ATV and some other cool shit too at the event.
So it's not just sessions like the normal where you have like 2,000 people there and you go sit in a room for a bunch of sessions. You guys are
mastermind.
It's this more mastermind.
Very mastermind. Yeah. Okay. There'll be some table work and group work, and this is not going to be like us lecturing, the whole time. We're going to go into mindset. We're going to go into creative financing, deal structure, analyzing, all of it. Last year was our first event. We wanted it small. We wanted 20 people. 20 people showed up. I think, this year we'll have 30, maybe 40 people.
Do you still have spots open for it?
We have a few spots open, yeah.
Okay. How much does it cost to go to something like this?
I think it's $1,500.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's cheap
That-
compared to most
Yeah,
things like this.
$1,500, and that includes like all the meals, the ATV, transport, and all that. So it's,
Yeah.
Does it include hotel room, or are you booking off site?
Does not include hotel room.
Okay.
But we have a room block.
I'm not- yeah.
Yeah, we have a room block for the hotels
Sweet.
with our guests.
Sweet.
Cool. I know you got to get out here, but he's got a couple minutes. Do you have any closing questions? I know this is your best bud right now.
No, dude, thank you. Such
Mike gets to talk to him all the time. This
Yeah.
was me and Trevor's.
I don't. I only see him outside of Oregon. It's
Yeah,
a rare in Oregon appearance.
I know. Mike's good at asking me random stuff that like other people don't typically ask me. Like, I know you guys brought that up at the beginning of the show, right? Like, we've heard your story a million times. Mike, you're good at asking the random stuff.
I want something new from you every time.
What do you want? What do you want? I'll give you something.
Well, I'm not ready.
Ask something good.
I'm not ready.
You got to be
now.
ready. Ready, set,
I
go.
do want to know this on what at that voice in the back of your head, the negative voice, the itty bitty shitty committee. Where are you at with it now? Where was it when it started? How loud was it? How quiet has it gotten? When does it come back? When does it go away? Do you see a pattern behind your ability to block out the fear as you move forward? You're always being uncomfortable.
Yep.
You're someone who's always getting uncomfortable, but how do you treat that voice? What's that relationship like?
I tell that voice to shut the fuck up.
It's just
often-
as simple as that?
I'm a pretty low like anxiety,
Yeah.
low fear like person. I think I started just adopting that belief like at a young age. Like I believe mindset's important, right? And so most of the time, like I am very, very fucking optimistic. Like, because I believe things work out, and like it may not always work out how you think it's gonna work out, but like shit's good, life's good. Like
Yeah.
it works out. It comes up. Like I had the most challenging real estate deal in the last 20 years, which we'll have to dig into at another time. I had a recent deal that was very challenging, the most challenging in the 20 years. And so I'd be lying to say that things didn't come up where I had fear and I had doubt, and I'm like, I don't want to fuck up 20 years of investing on this one deal, or I just self-funded this thing. What the fuck did I just do? Like, what am I thinking? And in those situations, because that was trying, I had to force myself. I'm telling myself the same shit that I tell other people.
Yeah.
Like, money's not real. It all works out. It always works out. And then it did.
And then are you doing that out loud, or are you doing that quiet in your brain? Like, how are you? Because you're convincing. What I'm hearing is someone who's having to work harder to convince that voice.
Most of the time, it's very, very natural.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, like it's a natural, like self-talk, positive, like most of the time. When it comes up, I am such a believer in manifestation and law of attraction that when shit comes up that isn't like abundant and amazing and wonderful, I flip my mind. So, cause I'm like, oh shit, I believe I can speak something into existence. Cause I've seen it manifest in my life and in other people's lives, positive or negative.
Yeah.
And so when that creeps up, I'm so conscious of my thought, because I'm like, oh shit, if I'm thinking that and that's not positive and that's not abundant, what if I believe that and I actually make that happen?
Yeah. You're
So-
hyper aware of the other side of the
I'm
story.
hyper aware of it. And it's so rare now, like that when that comes up, it's so obvious. I'm like, this doesn't feel like why am I thinking in fear? Like I got to crush that shit so fast, because like, what if I believe that?
Yeah. You're using logic to destroy emotions.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then there's an action piece. Like,
Yeah.
like there's, I always say, like, I believe in law of attraction, but then there's a law of action. And sometimes taking action means like physically doing something, but other times it's just like taking action on your thought process or on your thoughts and thinking differently.
Cool.
Great
Well,
way to wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to let you get out here. But thanks for coming, Gabe. That was
Absolutely.
awesome. And
Thank
if
you,
you guys are listening, thanks for listening. Subscribe, share it with a friend.
Check out the 0 to 100 tribe.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.